I read 16 books during the month of June, so we're gonna do a little wrap up. I'm gonna tell you guys all my favorites, the ones that maybe didn't like, I don't know, hit the mark for me, and I'm going to just give you all of my honest opinions. So if you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure you guys subscribe. There's new videos every Tuesday and every single Saturday. One of these books that I've read in this, I'm not gonna chat too much about because there's actually gonna be a vlog coming on Saturday with all of my thoughts, and I don't wanna like spoil that for you. But the others we will get through, so let's just get into it. We are gonna start with the thrillers, and I read 4 thrillers during the month. There are only 3 books in this stack, but I actually ended up reading 4. But the 4th book that the other thriller that I read, one of my friends at the gym is currently reading it, so I can't like obviously hold it, but I read The Tenant by Freida McFadden, and I think I rated that one 2.5 stars. And I will continue to read Freida McFadden's books. There's something about her books that like the ending always gets me and makes me want to continue more of her books. I think it's because I am always completely like surprised. I never really know what happens, which is what I enjoy out of a thriller. I also think my favorite type of thrillers are popcorn thrillers, which is like they're fast paced, they're quick. You're gonna get through it fast and kind of like get to the end fast. It's just like a very fast paced story. I'm not really the type who wants something super intricate. I don't want to have to like put things on the wall and figure out, you know, who did what. I just kind of want it to be suspenseful, fast-paced, and have a somewhat interesting story. But I do think that The Tenant was not my favorite because the first part of it was really slow, and it kind of felt like I was almost reading just like a typical like fiction story. It didn't really feel like a thriller initially, and then at the end I was hooked. So I ended up rating it I think 2.5 stars. If I just were to rate it from the ending alone, it would probably be maybe like 4 stars. And if I were just to rate it from like the beginning only, it would maybe be like 1.5. Like I didn't really care for it. I was kind of like, when are we gonna get to the meat of it? But a thriller I did really love is Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. I've never had a 5-star thriller, so if you guys have read any really good thrillers, please comment them below, because one of you guys actually recommended this and I loved it. I rated it 4 stars. I feel like if you're someone who wants something a little intricate, but not too much, like enough where you're not really gonna be able to put the pieces together easily, but it's gonna have a pretty good pacing to it, and you also like maybe Law and Order SVU, you should definitely read this book. It is very, very good. And I've never read anything by Steve Kavanaugh, but this one had me gasping. I had no idea what was coming, and I feel like every second I was just really surprised. I also ended up reading Cutthroat by Octavia Grant. This is a book that I don't like. I have a hard time saying how much I loved it because the writing isn't amazing, and it's not like the story is groundbreaking, but it's so unhinged that I will forever recommend her books. If you're ever in a slump, please pick up one of her books. This story tells a story of a woman who is scorned and she's kind of trying to get revenge. And that's all I'm really gonna say. It's a very short read, but I've always rated Octavia Grant's books 4 stars because even though they are kind of like fantastical, like you kind of have to like just assume that every character is unhinged, is going to do the most wild, outlandish things. Sometimes a little bit unbelievable, but it's so unbelievable that like I never could guess what could happen, and I'm always surprised, which I feel like is great if you're gonna kind of fall into a book slump. So pick up any of her books. I think this is my 5th book that I've read of hers, but this is her newest release. Loved it, rated it 4 stars. It was a very quick read. And then I also read Take It Back by Kia Abdullah. This book right here was good, but it was a little bit slower than I thought it would be. I am not someone who normally gravitates towards courtroom thrillers just because sometimes I feel like they, not me yawning, sometimes I feel like they make me yawn. Like they make me sleepy, they make me kind of like, okay, like when are we getting to the meat of this? Because you're sitting in a courtroom, a lot of it. Like they're asking questions. I think the thing that I loved about this book is that it felt very realistic because it was a courtroom thriller. It wasn't something that you had to suspend any kind of like belief because it was literally in a courtroom. I also liked it because you didn't really know who was the villain in this book, whereas I feel like in some thrillers you can kind of guess or you kind of like assume, and usually you're kind of, you know, somewhere in the realm of possibility, whereas this, it's with about one victim, and I think four guys are accused, and it's either one or the other. It's like a 50-50 chance of you being right, and it was really good. I really liked it, but again, it was a little bit slower pacing because it was just like in a courtroom. Like they're not really doing too much else. So those are all the thrillers that I read. I'm surprised I read that many thrillers because I have not really been in a thriller mood, but I will say when I travel, I always like to read thrillers more than anything. Doesn't matter where I'm going. And I think it's because, one, if I'm reading in an airport or if I'm listening on audiobook in the car, it always keeps me invested. Like the things around me are not distracting me. And two, if I'm reading in an airport, no one is looking over my shoulder looking at the spice that I'm reading. And that is always a top tier like thing for me. Like I love that. I also read, this is the only contemporary fiction that I read, but I also read The Favorites, and this one right here, I'm not going to talk too much about because I did end up doing a whole vlog reading this book, and I don't want to like spoil the vlog. That's going to be coming on Saturday, but it was very, very, very good. I'll just say that. And it lived up to the hype that everyone says that it like is or has or whatever. It is as good as people say it is. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm not going to share too much of my thoughts. I'll share more of that in the vlog on Saturday. Then I read 2 young adult books. I'm surprised that I wanted to pick up both of these books in the same month. I almost wish that I had not. I think that I would have enjoyed the books a little bit more. I read This Could Be Forever first, and this one, I don't know, I feel like a lot of the books that I've read that are new releases are just not what I expected. Like the writing is what I expect. It's just like, I don't know if I put it on too high of a pedestal, but there's something about it that it just like doesn't quite hit the mark. But this one was good. I feel like if you like a story that is not just a romance and then it has other themes of like race and familial issues, you'll really enjoy this one. This is by the same author who wrote Love Radio. Ebony Liddell does a great job of writing young adult romances that feel like something an adult would actually want to read, whereas some young adult romances, it's like, okay, I get that. You wrote that for a child. This one felt like one that you could easily read as an adult as well. You guys can always check my ratings and reviews on Goodreads. I always leave like 3 different paragraphs or so of my thoughts so you guys can get a concise idea of like my feelings behind it, because even if I wasn't like obsessed with the book or it wasn't a 5-star like read for me, it might be for someone else, and I always put the reasons why I think someone else would love it, or the reasons why maybe it wasn't my favorite but why it might be for someone else. So like for me, I'm not a fan of lyrical writing. I just don't really care for lyrical writing, but I know some people do. So I'll write that in a review and say, had very lyrical writing, it wasn't my favorite, but maybe someone else would love it because of that reason. And I always keep my Goodreads updated, so you guys can always check there if you guys want to know my thoughts. I also read, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I cannot help it that I'm yawning. I'm not a robot. I always have to say that because I know so many people are like, oh my gosh, why is she yawning? We actually are heading out of town in a few days. I feel like I just got back. I mean, I did. I literally went to New Orleans and I just got back, but we're heading to go to Florida with Brady's side of the family in a few days. So by the time you guys watch the vlog on Saturday, I will actually be in Florida. But coming back from a trip, there's always a lot to catch up on work-wise. And then when you leave to go on a trip, there's always a lot to do to like get ready to leave. So there's a lot to do overall, but I am really excited for this trip because I'm ready to be like by the beach. The place we're staying in is like walkable to the beach, and we're gonna be with our nieces and nephews. I also read Audrey and Bash Are Just Friends, and I love this book. I think if I could only recommend one young adult book that's like a new release and one that feels very much like a slow burn with like tension, and it just like has that feeling in the story, and it doesn't feel like too young adult, but it feels like something an adult would want to read but also a kid could read, it would be this one. This one I felt all the angst of when I was a child, and it felt so similar to the show Forever. If you guys have watched that show on Netflix, like the vibe of it, not the storyline, but the vibe was definitely this book. I really, really loved it. And it might be my favorite young adult book of the year. I don't know, I've loved it so far. Or I loved that book in comparison to other books that I've read so far this year. And I also read a bunch of romances. You guys know I've been in my romance era. I do think that I have probably about another month. So in July, I will probably read like heavy romance. And then I think I'm kind of wanting to like inch back into reading other things as well. Because whenever I started reading the thrillers, I read 4, obviously, as you guys saw, I was really invested in those and I was really excited to be reading those. So I feel like whenever I read historical fiction or getting back into more contemporary fiction, I will really enjoy it because I've had a bit of a break. Now, I don't think I'll ever need a break from romance, but I do think that I've read so many romance books because so many new releases have come out. So I feel like July is going to be my next like very romance heavy month. And then I feel like come August, I'll be like wanting to dip my toe in other things because I'll be gearing up for fall, which feels so wild to say because like it just does not feel like we are already in the middle of the year. Like we're already 7 months in. It's wild to me. So I ended up reading Sweet Like Honey by Danielle Brooks. And this book is the reason why I don't completely like cut out reading novellas, because I'm not someone who normally loves novellas, but I still try to dip my toe into reading shorter books because like you never know what you're gonna fall in love with. And this book, I really fell in love with it. If you're wanting something that's like very sweet, very cozy, that feels just like a happy hug, you will love this one. The neighbor, it's like very much like neighbor falls in love with the other neighbor, and it has like courting and it has like little dates and where like the girl will, you know, bring a little meal over, and it just feels very like old-timey and cozy, and I don't know, I just thought it was very cute. There's also difficult topics in this, which is surprising because it's such a short book. It's literally only 55 pages, but it was very cute, just a fun, fluffy read. Speaking of fluff, because I've been in the mood for fluff, I read The Proposal. I really enjoyed this one as well. I think what I liked about this is it was purely like a brain off type of book. Like I did not have to think too much. It was very cutesy. It starts out where a girl is getting proposed to and she's like, whoa, I did not expect this at all. And that's where the book starts. So it kind of starts with like higher stakes and you're already super invested. I think this is my 5th book by this author. If you're wanting to read a very cutesy, wholesome type of story with a little bit of spice, you should pick up something from Jasmine Guillory because her books are really like, I don't know, they feel like a true rom-com. Like they feel just like happy and fun. And then I read The Good Ones Are Taken. This one, I was surprised by how much I loved, and I think it's because I haven't really heard anyone talk about this book. I rated this one 4 stars. And Taj McCoy is an author whose book I've only read like one other time. And it did have a love triangle in it, so maybe that's like her thing, but she did so like great getting you invested in all of the characters, even though there were 2 different guys she was choosing from. I also really enjoyed how both of the guys were very different, but they also were really great in their own right. Whereas I feel like sometimes if you're reading a story where there's 2 different characters that the main character has to choose from, sometimes one person's terrible and the other person's great, you know? So it's like, we obviously know who you're gonna choose. This one wasn't as cut and dry, which I think was enjoyable. Again, I rated that 4 stars, and I felt like as I was reading it, I was like, oh, this feels like a movie, which is my favorite type of book to read. I also read One Golden Summer, which this book was a bit of a letdown, and it shouldn't have been, more because I have read books by this author and I was not obsessed with them. I didn't hate them, like they were just like fine to me, but I've had so many people who rate this book 5 stars, who've been obsessed with this book, so I just thought going into this, I was going to feel the same way. And that's the thing, is you cannot expect that your taste in books is going to be the exact same as someone else, and you also cannot expect that because someone else loved a book, you also love a book, even if you have similar taste. So sometimes you have to just try out books for yourself, and this one for me was cute. Again, I enjoyed it. I will say I enjoyed it more than some of the other books she's written. I've read Meet Me at the Lake, and then I've also read Every Summer After. I did like this book more than those other 2 books, but I will say this book felt very summery and it gave the vibe of summer, but sometimes I wonder, do people enjoy the storyline and the characters, or do they enjoy the vibe more? Because if I were to take out the like vibe of the story, which I feel like almost seemed like a character in the book in itself, but if I were to take out the vibe, the summer I turned pretty type of vibe, if I took that out of this book, would it be as great as people says it is? And I just don't know. Like I feel like the story itself couldn't stand alone. Like I feel like the setting added to it, and I think reading in the summer, it just gave the vibes of like what you want to read right now. But if I were to read this in the fall, I don't know. I just don't know. So again, I think I rated this one 3 stars. It was enjoyable. It did have a little bit more of like a lyrical type of writing that I'm usually wanting. And I also found out, which I kind of knew before, but I kind of found out that like, I don't really care to read about grandparents. I think just the characters are so like typical. It's like grumpy grandma, or either like bake cookies and like comfort in my house and cry on my shoulder grandma. Like they don't feel like real characters to me. They feel very two-dimensional. And I just like couldn't really connect with that character. I also feel like similarly to kids in books, not always, but I feel like a lot of the time they're written as if they're like a prankster, they're kind of like the bad kid, or they're the opposite and they're like very cutesy and they have like a lisp where they like trip often, or you know what I mean? Like they're just like, they're not real people to me, or at least they don't feel like it. And so yeah, that was another little thing that I wasn't obsessed with, but again, it was enjoyable, was not a 5-star read for me, and it made me realize that I know my taste better than anyone, and I really need to just stick to that. I need to stop like getting books that like people say are good. I just need to get what I think I'm gonna enjoy. And I kind of knew, I almost got this from the library because I kind of knew it wasn't gonna be like a 5-star, it was gonna be like a mid book. I was gonna enjoy it, but it wouldn't be something I'd think about or maybe even really recommend. And I thought about getting from the library, and then I was like, oh, well, so many people that I know have loved it, I should read it. No, I know my taste. I know my taste. And I just need to like stand in that. I read Game On by Ceresia Glass. Wow. This has been on my shelf forever. I have been trying to do videos where I'm reading books that have been on my shelf for quite some time and like reading those books on my physical TBR, because I almost feel like sometimes I'll get new books and I want to read those books first, but it's like, girl, you've had books on your shelf for 2 years, you need to read those first. So I've been trying to prioritize those books. I will never be someone that has an empty TBR. I don't ever want to be, but I do want to make sure that if I'm buying new books that I am also prioritizing the older books as well, because it's easy to like buy new books and then continue to read the new books and then forget about the other ones that I still want to read. This book is a great book to read if you're someone who likes to read about characters and their careers. I feel like Ceresia Glass, I keep wanting to say Ceresia Grass. Ceresia Glass does a great job of that, along with Denise Williams. Both of them, they talk about careers in a great way, and this one is kind of like gamer type vibes, and I feel like if you are a gamer or if you just enjoy cozy games, you would like this book. I feel like this also gave me similar vibes to this one, because both characters in both of these books are in interracial relationships and their families navigate their like connection differently. So that was something that I definitely was kind of like mixing up in both books because they had similar experiences. And then I have 4 more books here, so I'm gonna get through these really fast. The next book that I read and enjoyed was It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. This book was good, was not my favorite. It was probably my least favorite out of all the ones she's written, and all the other ones I rated like 4.5 out of 5 stars. I will still continue to read her books, and I do think if you've never read anything of hers, this could be a good one to read. But I think that Summer Romance is probably my favorite. And then her second book, I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, I love her books, but this one was probably my least favorite, only because I just connected with the other characters in the other books, I think, a little bit more. I can't remember what the other titles of the other books are. I'm trying to see. Oh, Same Time Next Summer. I think that Same Time Next Summer and Summer Romance are like my top 2. I don't know which one I would choose between them. And then Nora Goes Off Script, which is actually the most popular book, I think is like 3rd, and then this one. I also read Landing on Mars, rated this 4 stars. It is so messy, like so messy. So if you're someone who likes a messy read and you don't mind the cheating trope, please pick this book up. It is written by a Black author as well, a very small author. I think there's only 50 reviews with this book. It was messy, okay? I'm gonna say the characters are annoying. It was messy, but it was so enjoyable, and it was a book that I did not want to put down because it had a very different type of storyline that I don't read very often. I also read Nothing Feels Better. In one of my videos, I was trying to read books by smaller authors, and this was one of them. This book only had, I think, 1,200 reviews, and it immediately made me want to buy the rest of the books in the series, just because it was so enjoyable. It's a small town romance. It's also a romance where the main character has a child, and I actually did not dislike that child. It was actually pretty cute. But I loved it. It was so angsty. The main character, she was like trying to deal with her ex, who was like the father of her child, but he was like terrible, and it was very angsty. It gave very much like early Colleen Hoover vibes when you like see this bad guy and it's like another guy who's like kind of trying to protect her. Like, I don't know, it was cute, it was enjoyable. I think I rated that one 4 stars. And then I read Love and Sports Ball by Mika James. If you're wanting a spicy sapphic romance, this is the one. It is so spicy. I was so surprised. I knew it would be spicy going into it, but I did not realize how spicy. But I had to like go into it with that like way of thinking, because I knew initially it was just going to be spicy to begin with. That wasn't like new to me, and I think that helped. I think that knowing the type of book I'm going into, whether it's a book with no spice, heavy spice, angst, I think that has helped me enjoy the book so much more. And I'm reading more than I ever have. This month, again, I think I read, 16 books, which is great. I mean, amazing. And I just have been reading books like I am eating my breakfast every morning. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Please comment below your favorite book of the month and the book you're most excited to read next month. I would love to hear. Bye, guys.